Nobody saw this coming. A 21-year-old wildcard from the Philippines walked onto the grass courts of Berlin, stared down the world number 2, and pulled off a victory that could change the course of her career forever. But what happened next made the story even more unbelievable. Less than 24 hours later, she returned to the court and took down another top player in straight sets. Eala is no longer just a rising star. She's becoming one of the biggest stories in tennis. And it all started with an extraordinary battle against Elena Rybakina. On match point, standing on the grass inside Steffi Graf Stadium, Eala was trying to close out the biggest victory of her young career. Across the net stood one of the most feared players in the sport, the world number 2, a Grand Slam champion, and one of the most dominant grass court players on tour. The pressure was overwhelming. Eala later admitted she could feel it. "I'm still shaking," she said after the match. "And I was shaking on match point, too." Yet despite the nerves, despite the magnitude of the moment, she stepped up and delivered. An ace. Under the biggest pressure of her career. The 21-year-old Filipina wildcard defeated Elena Rybakina 7-5, 6-4, stunning the Berlin crowd and sending shockwaves through the tennis world. But remarkably, the story didn't end there. Less than a day later, Eala was back on court facing another massive challenge, Alina Svitolina, the Rome Masters champion and 7th seed. Once again, Eala delivered. Straight sets. Another statement victory. 2 top 10 wins in less than 48 hours. Just like that, Eala had booked her place in the Berlin Open semifinals with Wimbledon only 10 days away. And when you look closely at what happened against Rybakina, the result becomes even more impressive than the scoreline suggests. Early on, it looked like the match would follow the script everyone expected. Rybakina came out firing. She raced to a 4-1 lead in the opening set, blasting aces and crushing flat ground strokes with the effortless power that has made her one of the most dangerous players in women's tennis. Everything seemed under control. The world number 2 was dictating play. The Wimbledon champion was imposing her game. And the wildcard appeared to be heading toward another tough lesson against one of the sport's elite. Then something changed. Eala refused to go away. Point by point, game by game, she began turning the momentum around. She won 3 consecutive games to level the set at 4-4, stunning both her opponent and the crowd. Rybakina responded immediately, breaking again for a 5-4 lead and moving within 1 game of taking the set. At that moment, many players would have cracked. Eala didn't. Instead, she elevated her level once more. She broke back, held serve, and suddenly the pressure had completely shifted. The underdog who had been trailing 1-4 was now in control. A few minutes later, she completed the comeback and stole the opening set 7-5. Coming back from 1-4 down against the world number 2 on grass is difficult enough. Doing it against Elena Rybakina is something else entirely. The second set followed a similar pattern. Eala grabbed an early 3-1 advantage and looked increasingly confident with every passing game. But champions don't disappear quietly, and Rybakina fought her way back into the contest, cutting the deficit and putting Eala under intense pressure as the finish line approached. Soon it was 5-4. Eala serving for the match. The biggest moment of her career. Rybakina saved 1 match point with a brilliant forehand winner, refusing to surrender. Suddenly, Eala found herself down 15-30 with the tension rising by the second. The crowd held its breath. One mistake could change everything. Instead, Eala delivered her answer. An ace. Clean. Powerful. Untouchable. Moments later, a final error from Rybakina ended the contest. Game. Set. Match. Eala had done it. Shaking hands. Shaking nerves. But a fearless performance when it mattered most. The biggest win of her career was finally complete, and in that moment, the tennis world realized it could no longer ignore the name Eala. And what did she do immediately afterward? She called her dad. "I said, 'Oh my God,' and we were just screaming," Eala recalled. "My mom was there too, and I don't know. I'm just really happy." That's not a polished media answer. That's not a carefully rehearsed response designed for headlines. That's a 21-year-old athlete who has just achieved the biggest victory of her life and is still trying to process what just happened. The excitement is real. The emotion is real. The disbelief is real. For a few moments, she wasn't a rising tennis star or the latest sensation on the WTA Tour. She was simply a daughter calling her parents to share a life-changing moment. And somehow, the story got even better. Less than 24 hours later, Eala was back on court. Standing across from her was Alina Svitolina, a proven champion, a seeded player, the reigning Rome Masters winner, and someone with years of experience at the highest level. This time there was no dramatic comeback. No late-match chaos. No edge-of-your-seat finish. There was simply dominant tennis. Eala played with remarkable control, confidence, and aggression from the first ball to the last, defeating Svitolina in straight sets and booking her place in the Berlin semi-finals. It was the performance of a player who wasn't riding emotion anymore. It was the performance of a player who genuinely belongs at this level. And the numbers behind her rise are becoming impossible to ignore. The victory over Svitolina marked Eala's 5th career win against a top 10 opponent. Even more impressive, her overall record against top 10 players now stands at 5-4, with 3 of those victories coming during the 2026 season alone. Look at the names she has beaten: Coco Gauff, Jasmine Paolini, Iga Swiatek, Elena Rybakina. These aren't surprise wins over struggling players. These are victories against some of the biggest stars in women's tennis. And each win tells the same story: Alex Eala is becoming a serious threat to anyone she faces. What's perhaps most remarkable is how quickly this transformation has happened. At just 21 years old, in her first full season consistently competing at this level, she has already collected 5 top 10 victories. 3 of them have come within the last few months. That's not a hot streak. That's a breakthrough. And nowhere has that breakthrough been more obvious than on grass. Her grass court record in 2026 now stands at an astonishing 9-1. 9 wins. Just 1 defeat. The only loss came in the second round at Queen's Club last week. Everything else has been success. The Birmingham title. Victories over Donna Vekic. The stunning upset of Elena Rybakina. And now a commanding win over Elena Svitolina. Every tournament, every match, every victory is adding to a growing sense that something special is happening. What started as a promising grass court season is rapidly turning into the best stretch of Alex Eala's professional career. Every match. Every opponent. Every challenge. For Alex Eala, this grass court season has ended the same way. With a victory. And that's not a coincidence. In fact, it's forcing the tennis world to reconsider something important. Grass may actually be the surface that unlocks the very best version of Alex Eala. The evidence is becoming impossible to ignore. Eala herself recently explained the key to her success in one simple word: brave. I think for me, returning in my game in general, a highlight word would be to be brave. And it makes a big difference when I'm able to do that. Brave. Out of every word she could have chosen, that's the one that stood out. And when you think about it, that mindset perfectly matches the demands of grass court tennis. Grass rewards players who attack. It rewards those willing to step inside the baseline, take the ball early, and put opponents under immediate pressure. The rallies are shorter. The margins are smaller. The hesitation is punished. On this surface, being brave isn't an advantage. It's a requirement. And that's exactly why Eala's game appears so natural here. Her aggressive ball striking, her willingness to take risks, and her ability to rob opponents of time are all qualities that become even more dangerous on grass. She isn't waiting for points to develop. She's taking control of them from the very first shot. In many ways, she seems built for this surface. What's even more encouraging is the area of her game that many experts once viewed as her biggest weakness. Former world number 9 Andrea Petkovic recently argued that the one thing preventing Eala from joining the sports elite was her serve. The criticism was understandable. There were times when her first serve percentage dropped significantly, leaving her vulnerable behind a second serve that opponents could attack. At the time, it was a fair assessment. But something appears to be changing. Look at what Eala produced against Donna Vekic. 7 aces. Only 2 double faults. And perhaps most impressively, she saved 12 of the 14 break points she faced. Then came the match against Elena Rybakina. Serving for the biggest win of her career, down 15-30 with the pressure reaching its highest point, Eala didn't play cautiously. She didn't retreat. She fired an ace. Moments later, she delivered another powerful serve that Rybakina couldn't even get a racket on. Match over. The player once questioned for her serving suddenly relied on it to close out one of the biggest victories of the entire season. That's significant. Does it mean the serve is a finished product? Not yet. Does it mean she's suddenly going to dominate every match behind it? Of course not. But it does suggest something very important. The serve that was once viewed as a weakness is slowly becoming a weapon. And on grass, in the biggest moments, it's showing up exactly when she needs it most. Perhaps even more fascinating was what Eala said about Rybakina after the match. She's the one to beat. I'm happy to have been able to share the court with her again. Think about that statement for a moment. She said it about Elena Rybakina, not Aryna Sabalenka, the world number 1. That reveals something deeper. It suggests Eala sees Rybakina as a unique challenge, someone she respects enormously but also someone she genuinely believes she can compete with. Not because she hopes to. Because she's already proven it. Their matches aren't decided by a huge gap in talent. They're decided by small margins. A few points. A few moments. A few critical decisions under pressure. And that belief is incredibly powerful. It's the kind of confidence that doesn't come from positive thinking. It comes from experience. It comes from pushing elite players to their limits. It comes from beating them. First on clay. Now on grass. And when a young player begins collecting wins like that against the very best in the world, that's often when real breakthroughs begin. Not when the rankings say they're ready. Not when the experts predict it. But real breakthroughs don't happen when everyone else starts believing in you. They happen when you finally start believing in yourself. And that's what makes the next few weeks so fascinating. Because while Berlin has been an incredible story on its own, the bigger picture has always been Wimbledon. Everything happening here is building toward those 2 unforgettable weeks at the All England Club. For Alex Eala, Wimbledon is no longer a distant dream. It's the next chapter. And she arrives looking more dangerous than ever. This will be only the second Wimbledon main draw appearance of her career. Last year, Wimbledon 2025 was an introduction, a chance to experience the atmosphere, the pressure, and the expectations that come with competing on tennis's most famous stage. This year is completely different. This year, she arrives with proof. Proof that she can beat elite players. Proof that she can handle pressure. Proof that her game belongs on grass. She brings a Birmingham title. At least a Berlin Open semi-final appearance. A stunning victory over Elena Rybakina. A dominant straight-sets win over Alina Svitolina less than 24 hours later. And a remarkable 9-1 record on grass during the 2026 season. Nobody predicted this when the clay season ended. Nobody expected Alex Eala to become one of the hottest players on grass heading into Wimbledon. Yet here she is. The Wimbledon seedings will be finalized before the draw, and wherever Eala lands, it will be the result of a player who has earned every bit of her rise through performances, not hype. That raises a fascinating question. What does a Wimbledon with a seeded Alex Eala actually look like? What happens if she carries this confidence, this aggressive grasscourt style, and this improved serve onto the lawns of the All England Club? Because the players she has been beating in Berlin aren't just quality opponents. They're legitimate Wimbledon threats. Elena Rybakina is a Wimbledon champion. Alina Svitolina is the reigning Rome Masters champion. Donna Vekic arrived fresh off a Queen's Club title. And Alex Eala defeated all 3 of them in the span of a single week on grass. Think about that. 3 elite players. 3 major contenders. 3 victories. That isn't a favorable draw. That's a statement. What's perhaps most impressive is how quickly she has learned from one challenge to the next. Against Rybakina, she admitted she was shaking on match point while trying to close out the biggest win of her career. Less than a day later, she returned to the court and produced one of her most composed performances of the season against Svitolina. That's growth. That's maturity. And that's exactly the kind of progression that turns exciting prospects into genuine contenders. For years, Philippine tennis has searched for a player capable of competing with the very best in the world. Now, it may finally have one. Alex Eala is doing things no Filipino tennis player has done before. And with just 10 days remaining before Wimbledon begins, the excitement surrounding her rise is only getting stronger. So now the question belongs to you. Is Alex Eala a genuine Wimbledon contender? Can this incredible grasscourt run continue on the biggest stage in tennis? Let me know your predictions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps me continue bringing you the latest tennis stories and analysis every single day. Thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you in the next video.